Why humanism? The benefits are plenty and the cons don't exist. Hello humies, Jason, a humanist here for another ramblings. I thought it would be good for me to get out my reasonings as to why I'm a humanist, what does it mean to me, and how does it affect my everyday life. Firstly, if you don't know what humanism is, it's a non-religious foundation of life that provides the community, support, and leadership without the spirituality or God of a normal religion. It's a philosophy of sorts that acts as a guide to a good life, but not a dogmatic scripture of how to live. If that all makes sense, then let's get into it. When I made the jump and committed to atheism last year, I was questioned a lot, and I mentioned this in my Labels ramblings, so I decided to go out and find any religion or way of life that I could connect with, that maybe I didn't agree with 100% with everything of it, but I was hoping that I could say I agree with 90% of it, and at least identify as that for anyone that asked. I originally thought I was going to be something like a Buddhist or a Hinduist or something in that range. I haven't really done a lot of research on the topic, so I was really coming in blind. But I knew I wanted something that had been around for a reasonable amount of time and had some degree of writings I could at least point people to if they were curious, and if there was a community connected to it in Australia, then that's a bonus, I thought at the time. I have changed my mind on that now, but I'll get into that later. As I was searching, I came across humanism. Now, to be fair, I wasn't particularly drawn to the name humanism at the time, but you can't win them all. And I've grown to appreciate it more now. But anyways, as I was reading about it, it started ticking more and more boxes. And I really felt like, hey, this might be the one. And it turns out it was. Each component or criteria for what I was looking for was either being met, or humanism was providing in a greater capacity than I originally had hoped. So let me detail what they were and why humanism ticked the box for me. Priority one was really having a worldview that aligned with what I had already had to within 90%. Ultimately, I wanted the ability to explain to someone in as few words as possible what I stand for and what I don't. I hoped that I could find something with about a 90% alignment, and to my surprise, I'd say I'm closer to 99% alignment with humanism. Additionally, to being able to tell someone what I stand for, I wanted my kids to be able to learn what I stand for as well. In worst case scenario, something happened to me and I passed away. How would my kids know what I valued and my morals, etc.? Humanism has been able to provide me this in spades. So when I'm discussing with people with different beliefs, or on the left or of the right of the political spectrum, people of different religions, they can't do what they've done in the past and box me into a label I don't agree with. They have to grasp the concept of the label I've given myself. So instead of playing defense of why I'm not what they're claiming I am, I'm playing the offense game, and they've got to figure out or grasp what I'm saying or what I am. Side note, I love a good discussion, by the way, so this happens quite a lot for me. Which brings me to my next priority. Priority two, it needed to be accessible to the public to actually research it, i.e. it had books, it had scriptures, and history connected to it. My first priority is pretty pointless if no one can easily learn what it was that I'm claiming to be. I'm back at square one, and I'm having to explain everything to them again. I'm not saying you can't do this, by the way, but it's not what I was looking for. So, another win for me in humanism. Humanism has lots of books, declarations, noteworthy people who are prominent thinkers and writers on the topics. The Declaration on Humanism is such an easy way to present what humanism is as well, and it's even more valued in my eyes since it's not scripture, but a definition of sorts that gets updated as time goes on. Which leads me into priority three. There was a degree of leadership I could lean towards, that if I couldn't be bothered researching something myself, I could look towards people who shared my beliefs for guidance. I'm not going to lie, sometimes I reach the end of a topic or subject and just think, I'm never going to add anything to this theory, and it's not helping me in my everyday life. Like, what am I doing trying to figure out what is true in this case? I came to this mindset when I looked into what is and isn't scientific and discovered that it's really difficult to tell what the heck a real science is or not. I was looking at, is dark matter scientific? It was a random discussion I was involved in. I won't go into the details. And I was reading that some scientists think it is and some don't. And then there's modified gravity, and that was the new bee's knees at the time, and yada, yada, yada. Bottom line was, people spend their entire lives dedicated to researching this stuff, and they can't agree when it comes to the outer edges of scientific discoveries. I.e., there's not a single point that they all take, but many until one is proven, and even then, it's debatable. Bottom line, though, is I'm not going to solve it from my computer chair, or in this instance, in my egg chair here. So I'm just going to have to trust in the scientists that they know or don't know, in some cases, what they're talking about. So, leadership in this sense was a priority. And let's get away from the sciencey side of things, like leadership in the moral and ethical sense, as well as for government policies. Even this is helpful at a bare minimum for finding a starting point to work from, which in humanism, there are great minds, if not the greatest minds. Biased much? No, I'll take it, but I can turn towards for guidance or trust in the knowledge of their works or opinions. Point is, I don't need to, nor care for, or even have the ability or time to research everything for myself. If I can find people I trust and I can learn their opinions, that is valuable to me, even if it is just the starting point. Priority 4. There was a community I could connect with, local or international, if need be. Luckily, there is a community in Australia. It's in the growth phase, but around the world it's picked up traction in many countries, such as UK and Scandinavian countries like Denmark. And why is community so important in this case? Well, community is ultimately what continues the philosophy on in many ways. It's how I can connect or discover others with the same or at least similar morals and ethics as myself. It's where you can turn to for support, friendship, or romance for those inclined. Not me, I have a wife. Or activities and engagement, the social life of sorts. In short, I've joined the community, or since I've joined the community, I've made friends, I've helped others, I've had a lot of fun, and looking forward to how it grows in Australia and around the world. So, that overall was what I was looking for and what I ended up finding in humanism, which drew me further into it. What I didn't realize was there was 2 things about humanism which were bonuses to the foundation. First, there's no gods, spirituality, etc., no beliefs in the supernatural, and I won't lie, I was a little bummed out that there were no gods. And even though I wasn't going to believe in the gods, I was really hoping to at least have fun reading their stories, like a little Loki trickery or a Zeus mighty good nighty story or something. But alas, no gods, no demons, nothing magical like that. But by doing so, it really helped ground the ideas in reality. Additionally, yes, there's plenty of emotions going on in the humanist crowd, but there's no, I'm feeling drawn to this because the spirits are speaking to me, or my personal pet peeve, it's just something I can't explain. I just know you're wrong and I'm right because I'm enlightened and I've seen things. Like, don't even get me started on this one. But anyways, people have differing ideas in humanism, sure. But I'm able to discuss the thought process with them, which is really nice. And I like the fact that it focuses on humans not as gods, but as animals, and that we have a connection to nature, not through some magical sense, but because we are a part of nature. And it does this through acceptance of science and not in spite of science. Second bonus, it's based on science rather than scripture. Humanism highlights and appreciates scientific discoveries and accepts that things can change and can become more true or less true over time. Even the declarations and manifestos of humanism have been updated over the years and are continually reconsidered. It's not about reinterpreting what was written by someone 100 years ago and keeping the same wording. It's about asking ourselves now and building upon the knowledge of what they wrote 100 years ago. I say 100 years because a Humanist manifesto was written in 1933, which effectively outlined what humanism meant as a collective at the time, which is what some to some degree, the Declaration of Modern Humanism was built upon. Although humanism itself has been discussed and philosophized over for centuries or millennia, it's hard to pinpoint when it truly became a thing because the ideas have been discussed even back in the ancient civilization times, although it wasn't known as humanism back then. Look, I might come back to this another time once I learn more and get a greater grasp on exactly what's happening here. But anyway, so that's what happened when I was looking for my religion of sorts. And what I found, once I found humanism in Australia, I was pleasantly surprised to find out that there was volunteering work being advertised. Volunteering wasn't something I was expecting to get into for it, but I soon found, or discovered more so, that humanism is involved in a good amount of activism, politics, and volunteer work. This has been incredibly rewarding as, although I was living a fulfilling life to begin with, this gave me additional avenues to meet one of my values of helping others. I'm now helping grow the community in Australia and by default, the world. As for the cons, as mentioned, they don't exist. And I might be just being a little bit cheeky by saying that. I did punch into Gemini what the cons of humanism are and thought that might make for a better full ramblings video by itself. But the main criticism I've seen that holds any credibility so far is it's too human focused. I'll just address this one here as I actually don't believe, or maybe I haven't seen the evidence to suggest this is true. From the humanists I've read, engaged with, or heard about, the Declaration of Modern Humanism even states that Part 1, Point 4, we hold that personal liberty must be combined with a responsibility to society. A free person has duties to others, and we feel a duty of care to all of humanity, including future generations, and beyond this to all sentient beings. The sentient beings part being critical to not just human beings. This was updated in 2022. So maybe beforehand there was too much emphasis or perceived emphasis on humans, and this is why humanism feels so right for me, because it learns and grows and redefines itself. Anyway, if you've made it this far, thanks for listening. If you disagree, I'll be happy to respond to any comments below. Until next time, thanks for listening. Bye.